My name is Ramona Castillo. I'm 30 years old. 2 months ago, I stood in the atrium of St. Catherine's Regional Medical Center in San Antonio, wearing a white coat with my name embroidered above the pocket. Dr. Ramona Castillo, Internal Medicine. While my parents sat in the fourth row of a hospital fundraising gala they'd been invited to by accident. They weren't supposed to be there. My younger sister Isabella's husband, Victor, worked in hospital administration and had been given a table. He'd invited my parents without telling me, so when the hospital director, Dr. Alan Whitaker, stepped to the podium and said, "I'd like to introduce the physician who has made the single greatest impact on our residency program in the last 5 years," my mother was mid-bite into a dinner roll, and my father was checking the score of the Cowboys game on his phone. "Dr. Ramona Castillo," Dr. Whitaker continued, "graduated top of her residency class, has published 9 peer-reviewed papers, and was recently offered a fellowship in cardiology at Johns Hopkins. She is, without exaggeration, one of the finest young doctors I've ever had the privilege to train." 212 people applauded. My parents sat frozen. My mother's hand was still holding the dinner roll. My father's phone screen was still glowing in his lap. 7 years earlier, in the kitchen of their house in Laredo, Texas, I had told them I'd been accepted to medical school. My mother had laughed. Not a polite laugh, not a surprised laugh, but a real one, the kind that comes from genuine disbelief. Then she'd said, "Mija, be serious. Medical school? You? You couldn't even pass chemistry the first time. Isabella's the smart one. Stop embarrassing yourself before you waste everyone's money." My father had chuckled behind his newspaper and added, "Your mother's right. You should stick with something realistic. Maybe go back to the clinic. They always need front desk girls." Front desk girls. Their daughter had just been accepted to medical school and they told her to answer phones. But what they didn't know was that the girl they laughed at had clawed her way into that acceptance through 5 years of work they'd never bothered to ask about. And when Dr. Whitaker said my name in front of 200 people, including the parents who told me I couldn't, every laugh they'd ever aimed at me echoed back as silence. Before I tell you how I got from that kitchen to that podium, please like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this story. Drop a comment. Where are you watching from and what time is it there? I love hearing from all of you. Now let me take you back to the beginning. Growing up in Laredo, on the Texas-Mexico border, I learned that my family operated on a fixed belief system. Isabella was the brilliant one, and I was the other one. My family. Dad worked as a supervisor at a customs brokerage firm near the border crossing. Stable job, government adjacent, good enough to put us solidly in the middle class by Laredo standards. Mom worked part-time at a church daycare and full-time as Isabella's personal publicist. My sister Isabella, 3 years younger, was the prodigy. Straight A's without trying. Science fair champion 3 years running. National Honor Society by freshman year. She had the kind of effortless academic brilliance that made teachers remember her name for decades. Then there was me, Ramona, the one who had to study twice as hard for half the recognition, the one who got B's and occasional C's and had to retake sophomore chemistry after a 68, the one teachers described as hard-working instead of gifted, which in academic language means she tries, bless her heart. Isabella got the spotlight. I got the shrug. When I was 14, I told my parents I wanted to be a doctor. We were eating dinner, carne asada, rice, beans, the Tuesday rotation. I said it plainly, the way you say something you've been carrying for months. Mom didn't even look up from her plate. "A doctor? Mija, doctors have to be smart, like really smart. Isabella could be a doctor. You should think about something more you." More me? Something that doesn't require so much school. You struggle with school, Ramona. There's no shame in that. Not everyone is built for academics. I was 14. My own mother told me I wasn't built for it. I told myself she was being practical. She knew my grades. She was trying to protect me from disappointment. At 16, I brought home a report card with 4 B's and 2 A's. The A's were in biology and English. I was proud of the biology grade. I'd worked with a tutor every Saturday morning for 3 months to pull it up from a C+. Mom glanced at the report card and said, "That's fine, honey." Set it on the microwave. Same semester, Isabella won a statewide science competition. She'd designed an experiment on water filtration that caught the attention of a professor at UT Austin. Mom and Dad drove her 3 hours to the awards ceremony, bought her a new outfit for the occasion, and took the whole family to a steakhouse afterward. Dad spent $220 on dinner. He gave a toast. "To Isabella, the first doctor in the Castillo family." I was sitting right there. I'd told them 2 years earlier that I wanted to be a doctor, and Dad was toasting Isabella as if I'd never said a word. I told myself it was different. Isabella had earned the recognition. I was just dreaming. At 18, I graduated high school with a 3.1 GPA. Not spectacular, not terrible. Solidly average in a school where average meant you were invisible. I applied to Texas State University in San Marcos because it was affordable and far enough from Laredo to breathe. Mom and Dad drove me up in August. Dad helped carry boxes. Mom looked around my dorm room, a cinder block double with fluorescent lights and a mattress that smelled like industrial cleaner, and said, "Well, it's a start. Just get a degree in something useful, Ramona. Business or education. Something with a paycheck." "I'm doing pre-med, Mom." She and Dad exchanged a look. The look. The one that said, "Poor thing, she still thinks she can do this." "Okay, mija," Mom said, patting my arm. "Just have a backup plan." Isabella, meanwhile, was heading to Rice University on a full academic scholarship. $62,000 a year, covered entirely. The family WhatsApp group talked about nothing else for 3 months. I started college with a chip on my shoulder the size of the Rio Grande and something to prove to people who weren't watching. Freshman year was brutal. Organic chemistry nearly broke me. I got a D on the first exam and sat in the library bathroom crying for 20 minutes. The material was dense, the pace was relentless, and every pre-med student around me seemed to understand it instinctively while I was drowning. I could have quit. Mom expected me to quit. She'd call every Sunday and ask, "Have you thought about switching to business? Isabella says the pre-med track is really hard." She would know. Isabella would know. Of course she would. But I didn't quit. I did something else instead. I found Dr. Patricia Molina. Dr. Molina was a biology professor at Texas State who ran a mentorship program for first-generation and underrepresented pre-med students. She was the daughter of Mexican immigrants, the first in her family to attend college, and she'd earned her PhD from UT Southwestern through sheer, grinding, unglamorous persistence. I showed up at her office hours in October of my freshman year, sat down across from her desk and said, "I want to be a doctor and everyone in my life thinks I'm too stupid to do it." She looked at me for a long moment. Then she said something I'll carry for the rest of my life. "Ramona, medicine doesn't care about prodigies. It cares about people who refuse to stop. Talent gets you noticed. Stubbornness gets you the degree. I'll take stubborn over talented every single time." She became my mentor, my anchor, the voice in my head that replaced my mother's. Dr. Molina restructured my study approach from the ground up. She taught me active recall, spaced repetition, concept mapping, techniques that worked for how my brain processed information, not how Isabella's did. She connected me with a study group of 5 other students who were grinding through pre-med the hard way. We met every weeknight from 7 to 10 p.m. in the basement of the science building. Sophomore year, my GPA climbed to 3.4. Junior year, 3.6. By senior year, I was pulling a 3.78 in my science courses. Not because I'd suddenly become a genius, because I'd learned how to work in a way that genius never has to. Dr. Molina wrote in her recommendation letter, "Ramona Castillo is not the smartest student I've ever taught. She is the most relentless. In 20 years of mentoring, I have never seen anyone improve through sheer force of will the way she has. She will be an extraordinary physician because she understands struggle from the inside." I applied to 7 medical schools, got rejected from 4, waitlisted at 2, accepted at 1, UT Health San Antonio. Not Harvard, not Johns Hopkins, a solid, respected state medical school that would give me exactly what I needed. I was 23 years old. I'd spent 5 years rebuilding myself from the girl who got a 68 in chemistry into a medical school candidate. And the day that acceptance email arrived, I made the worst decision of the process. I called my parents. Mom answered. I told her. And she laughed. Not a small laugh, a real, from the belly, you can't be serious laugh. I heard Dad in the background say, "What's she saying?" And Mom repeated it to him. "She says she got into medical school." And I heard him chuckle too. Then Mom came back on the line. "Mija, be serious. Medical school? You? You couldn't even pass chemistry the first time. Isabella's the smart one. Stop embarrassing yourself before you waste everyone's money." Dad took the phone. "Your mother's right. You should stick with something realistic. Maybe go back to the clinic. They always need front desk girls." I sat on my apartment floor in San Marcos, holding an acceptance letter to medical school while my parents told me to go answer phones. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I said, "Okay, thanks for the input," and hung up. Then I called Dr. Molina. "Patricia, I got in." She screamed. Actually screamed. I heard something fall off her desk. "Ramona! I knew it! I knew it! Oh my God, I'm crying! I'm actually crying!" That was the difference. The woman who'd known me for 4 years wept with joy. The people who'd known me for 23 laughed. I stopped calling home after that. Not dramatically. I just gradually reduced contact until it became a text on birthdays and holidays. My parents didn't seem to notice. They were busy with Isabella, who'd graduated from Rice, gotten into a master's program in biomedical engineering at Johns Hopkins, and was dating a surgical resident named Victor. The family narrative was set. Isabella was the success story. I was the cautionary tale they didn't talk about. Medical school was the hardest thing I've ever done. I say that without hesitation or exaggeration. First year, I studied 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. Anatomy lab at 6 a.m., lectures until 3 p.m., library until midnight. I ate most meals standing up at the kitchen counter of my studio apartment because sitting down felt like wasting time. I failed my first pathology exam. Sat in a bathroom stall at the medical school and called Dr. Molina. She talked me off the ledge in 12 minutes. "You didn't come this far to stop here. Retake the material. Adjust your approach. You know how to do this, Ramona. You've been doing it your whole life." I retook the exam. Scored an 89. Second year, I found my rhythm. Clinical rotations started and everything changed. In lecture halls, I was average. In hospital rooms, I was extraordinary. Patients responded to me. Attending physicians noticed me. I had a bedside manner that textbooks couldn't teach. The ability to look at a scared person and make them feel like they were the only person in the building. Dr. Alan Whitaker, the hospital director at St. Catherine's, supervised one of my third-year rotations. After watching me manage a complicated diabetes case with a non-English-speaking patient, I conducted the entire consultation in Spanish, built a culturally appropriate care plan, and followed up personally 3 times. He pulled me aside. "Castillo, where did you come from?" "Laredo, sir." "No, I mean, how did nobody tell me about you sooner? You're one of the strongest clinical students I've seen in this program." Nobody had told him because nobody had noticed. The quiet ones never get noticed until they're undeniable. By the end of third year, I was ranked in the top 5 of my class. Not because I was the smartest, because I outworked everyone, and because I connected with patients in a way that pure intelligence can't replicate. I graduated medical school at 27. Top 10%. 3 awards for clinical excellence. A published case study in the Journal of General Internal Medicine. 9 peer-reviewed papers by the time I finished residency 2 years later. Dr. Molina drove 4 hours from San Marcos to attend my white coat ceremony. She sat in the front row and cried through the entire thing. When I walked off stage, she grabbed my face in both hands, exactly the way Grandma used to, and said, You did it. You impossible, stubborn, beautiful girl. You did it. My parents weren't there. They hadn't been invited. They didn't know. During those years, my family carried on with their narrative undisturbed. Isabella finished her master's, married Victor, and settled in San Antonio, 20 minutes from the hospital where I was completing my residency. She didn't know I was there. Nobody did. Mom still texted me occasionally. Surface-level messages. Happy Thanksgiving, mija. Isabella and Victor bought a house. Your father's knee is acting up again. Not once did she ask what I was doing. Not once did she ask about work or school or whether I'd eaten. I responded politely, briefly, gave nothing away. Isabella texted me once during my second year of residency. Hey, Ramona. Victor got a job at St. Catherine's in hospital admin. Small world. We should get together sometime. Small world indeed. Her husband worked in the same building where I was saving lives, and she had no idea. I didn't respond to that text for 3 weeks. When I finally did, I wrote, Congrats to Victor. I'm busy with work, but maybe soon. Soon turned into never. Until the gala. The fundraising gala was Victor's project. He'd organized the annual Donor Appreciation Dinner for the Hospital Foundation. 200 guests, physicians, board members, donors, community leaders. Dr. Whitaker was giving the keynote, and part of his speech included recognizing outstanding physicians from the residency program. Victor had been given a table for 8. He invited Isabella, my parents, and a few colleagues. He did not know that the physician Dr. Whitaker planned to honor was his sister-in-law. I found out my parents would be there 2 days before the event. Dr. Whitaker's assistant mentioned the guest list during a briefing, and I saw Castillo V. listed under Victor's table. My stomach dropped. I considered backing out. For about 30 seconds. Then I thought about Dr. Molina, about the bathroom stall after my failed pathology exam, about the kitchen in Laredo, about my mother's laugh. I put on my white coat. I showed up. The atrium of St. Catherine's was transformed. Round tables with white linens, candles, a string quartet near the entrance. I arrived early, before the guests were seated, and stood in the hallway outside the main doors, breathing slowly. Dr. Whitaker found me there. Nervous? My parents are here. They don't know about any of this. He studied me. Any of it? They laughed when I told them I got into medical school. They told me to go answer phones. They think I work at a clinic doing admin. He was quiet for a moment, then, Well, Dr. Castillo, I think they're about to get an education. The guests filed in. I stayed out of sight. From a hallway window, I watched my parents take their seats. Dad wore his good blazer, the one he saved for church and funerals. Mom had her hair done. They looked comfortable, impressed by the surroundings, proud to be at a table hosted by their successful son-in-law. Isabella sat next to Victor, leaning into him, scanning the room. Dr. Whitaker took the podium at 8 p.m. He spoke about the hospital's mission, the donor community, the future of regional healthcare. Then he shifted. Each year, I have the privilege of recognizing a physician who exemplifies everything we strive for at St. Catherine's. This year's honoree graduated top of her residency class, has published 9 peer-reviewed research papers, and has been offered a cardiology fellowship at Johns Hopkins, one of the most competitive programs in the country. I was standing at the edge of the atrium now, just inside the door, invisible in the crowd. But what makes her exceptional isn't her resume, it's her humanity. She conducts consultations in English and Spanish. She spends extra hours with patients who have no one else to advocate for them. She has the highest patient satisfaction scores in our program's history. She is, without exaggeration, one of the finest young doctors I have ever trained. He paused, looked toward the door where I was standing. Please welcome Dr. Ramona Castillo. 212 people applauded. The sound was enormous, warm, enveloping. I walked through the atrium toward the podium. I passed table after table of people standing. I kept my eyes forward because I knew that if I looked at my parents' table too soon, I would either cry or freeze. But I couldn't help it. I glanced. My mother was still holding a dinner roll. Her mouth was slightly open. Her eyes were wide and glassy, fixed on the white coat, on my name embroidered above the pocket, on the reality of what she was seeing. My father's phone screen was still lit in his lap. His hand had stopped moving. He was staring at me like he was watching someone rise from the dead. Isabella had both hands over her mouth. Victor was leaning toward her, whispering something, but she wasn't listening. I reached the podium. Dr. Whitaker shook my hand, and I turned to face the room. I gave a short speech, 5 minutes. I talked about growing up in Laredo, about the patients on the border who deserved world-class care and rarely got it. I talked about Dr. Molina, who taught me that stubbornness was a medical qualification. I did not mention my parents. I didn't need to. They were sitting in the 4th row hearing 200 strangers celebrate the daughter they'd laughed at. Isabella came first, tears streaming down her face. "Ramona, I didn't know any of this. Would you have believed me?" She opened her mouth, closed it, then hugged me so hard I couldn't breathe. "I'm so sorry." My parents approached last. Mom's makeup was streaked. "Mija!" "Don't." Softly. Not with anger, with a boundary. "We didn't know. You didn't ask. For 7 years you didn't ask me a single question about my life. I got into medical school and you laughed. You told me to answer phones. We were trying to protect you." "Be what? Humiliated?" "I was humiliated, Dad. By my own parents. The difference is I didn't let it stop me." "We're so proud of you." "You're proud now because a room full of important people told you to be. Where was the pride 7 years ago?" Neither of them answered. Dr. Whitaker appeared beside me. "Mr. and Mrs. Castillo, your daughter is one of the most remarkable physicians I've ever worked with. Johns Hopkins recruited her. Whatever you think you know about Ramona, you don't know the half of it." Dr. Lillian Garza said quietly but clearly, "I hope you know what you have. Most parents would give anything for a child like her." The silence after that sentence was the loudest thing I've ever heard. Isabella walked me to my car. "You did all of this and never told anyone." "I told the people who mattered. The ones who believed in me before there was proof. I should have been one of those people. You can be one now." Mom called every day for 2 weeks. I stopped her each time. "You needed to not laugh. That was the bar, Mom. You couldn't clear it." Dad sent a letter, 4 handwritten pages. Growing up poor in Nuevo Laredo, the fear of watching your children aim too high and fall. I thought I was protecting you. I see now I was just protecting myself from hoping. That line got me. It was the first honest thing he'd ever said. I wrote back, "Understanding isn't the same as forgiving. I needed a father who hoped for me. Give me time." Today I'm packing boxes. In 6 weeks, Baltimore. Johns Hopkins. Cardiology. My white coat hangs on the back of my bedroom door. Dr. Ramona Castillo. The letters don't smudge. Nobody can laugh them away. Forgiveness is a process. The laugh still lives in my memory. Healing doesn't mean pretending the wound was never there. It means building a life so full that the scar becomes just one small part of the story. Their laughter is not your limit. Find the ones who will see you before your family does. Hold on to them. And when the room finally applauds, you'll be too busy looking at the ones who never doubted.